House, the official podcast of Beefy. I'm your host, Jorge, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about some crypto and DeFi news going on in the space. We'll be focusing a lot on the depegging of USDT as well as Curve being over-leveraged. This is some huge news, but is it something you need to be worried about? Well, you'll definitely want to stick around to find out. I'll be joined by our usual suspects, TBC, the marketing guru of Beefy, as well as Weso, our lead developer. We'll also have a special guest to come in and give his insight on a lot of what's going on in crypto and the DeFi space. It's an episode you definitely don't want to miss. And if you enjoy this content, you should definitely like and subscribe and check out our links below, like our producer Beefy, the multi-chain yield optimizer located on 20 different blockchains, offering some of the most competitive yield in all of DeFi. If you got crypto, consider using Beefy. And I also want to mention that nothing in this video is financial or legal advice. So any financial decisions or legal decisions you're going to make, you definitely want to consult a financial advisor or legal advisor or lawyer. Anyways, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Breaking news. CoinEx is now required to stop operating in the United States.
No.
Never heard of it.
No.
What the hell is CoinEx?
Wait, you don't know CoinEx, bro?
Breaking news right
you
there. What's the sounder?
You clearly don't try and smuggle money across borders.
Nobody knows. It's like those that you heard of Promethium, that one SEC allowed broker.
I haven't heard of any of this stuff.
Broker of crypto that doesn't let you trade in Ether Bitcoin for some reason.
You mean the SEC's organization?
The SEC's preferred trading platform that does no trading, I guess.
The one run by the SEC?
I don't know. I don't know if I go that far.
FTX?
No, yeah, it's definitely Promethium's definitely just SEC plants anyways. So.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's a possibility. So far,
no, it's fact.
How do you know?
I know.
Did we do the legal yet before we start?
By the way, great moment to mention, nothing in this video is financial or legal advice. Please consult a lawyer or financial advisor when doing so. And with that being said, we have a guest today, our friend Kila, who I'd like to introduce to the show. Kila, how are you doing today?
I'm doing lovely, my man. How are you doing, George?
I'm doing well.
Kila, where is your microphone boom mounted? Into the ceiling? Where does it come from?
No, it's like it has a clip to the table, and yeah, it's just like this.
Are you under the table?
No,
he's definitely hired somebody to hold that thing.
Yes. I went to Home Depot. There was a couple people out there. Yeah, I'm like, yo, just hop in, ask questions later. Don't worry, I got you later. I'll pay you later on CoinEx.
My money's on CoinEx.
Yeah, exactly.
No, all my assets.
I'll pay you as soon as I get it back.
This must be new. I can't find anything on CoinEx.
I told you it was breaking.
No, I mean...
Breaking news. 5 hours ago. Blackrock close to filing Bitcoin ETF. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so I just want to say quickly, this might be the best shot at any Bitcoin ETF simply because of all the influence that the people at Blackrock have with all the different financial intermediaries and institutions that enforce regulations. This could be the Bitcoin pumpening that the maxis have been waiting for.
For sure. They own the US. You think it's all a coincidence that everything comes out as a security and then BTC not, all this kind of stuff. And then you got BlackRock coming in, swooping in, save the day.
Wait, I saw something they were buying stuff from MicroStrategy. Like that's where they're buying their Bitcoins from? Is that true?
If I understand correctly, it's that it's BlackRock as well as several other organizations are increasing their exposure to MicroStrategy. And I think that what's going on is that anyone else that was applying for an ETF was not the preferred winner that the regulators or politicians were looking for. And what they want are the organizations that they have more influence on or being influenced by to be the winner in this ETF race.
Jorge, breaking news. Coinbase and Cash App to integrate Jack Dorsey's Bitcoin self-custody wallet. Breaking.
Yay?
That is breaking.
Okay.
That was quite.
I was just trying to get Jorge. I just stopped paying attention to you, so I just wanted to get on with the script. So let's go.
Okay, fine. Well,
I
how
can
are
see
you
why
guys
you only
dealing
get
with,
15 fucking minutes of like quality content out of these
yeah,
things.
dude. This is the million subscribers video right here. That's what we're producing.
There we go.
How are you guys? I gotta say, with everything that's going on right now, prices are falling. Bitcoin's below 25K. ETH is back in the 1600 area. How are you guys handling everything as it's coming to you right now?
How are we
Let it drop.
handling everything?
Let it drop.
Handling it.
Let it drop. I'm gonna buy everything.
I'm
Just
watching,
Let it go.
trying not to get liquidated. for the third or fourth time. Because you know what happens is you get this like little bit of hope because the market starts to go up and you're bored as shit in this market, and so you're like, I don't know, I just need the leverage drug, right? Shoot it right into my veins. So you go and you leverage, and then you farm stables with your borrowed coin, and you earn 10% yield, which is definitely not worth the risk.
No.
And then CZ dumps all of his bags on top of you to buy a B&B, and then you're stuck in this situation where now you're liquidated again. Congratulations.
Yeah.
When are you gonna learn your lesson? Stop it. You got an addiction, man.
I'm an
got
addict.
addiction.
Bro, just throw in some shorts into that as well. Just fucking hedge your bets. I think that's what I fucking realized.
You short?
Yeah, I've been short my entire life, but that has led me to always try and what's that, Wes?
Do you gamble?
Yeah.
Do you ever go to a casino?
Yeah. I have
you
like
ever
this.
played crap?
I've never played craps. I've never played craps. I usually there's like a few games that'll fucking play. I've got one of these like very competitive and addictive personalities. If I get into something, I will get into it. That's why I'm very careful with how much.
You know what you should try is leverage.
Yes, folks. That's right. You heard it here first.
I don't know.
Yeah,
If you have an addictive personality,
try leverage.
You totally sound like a don't pass line guy, though, right? You just go up there and you're betting
just
against
don't.
the table.
Yeah, I hate those bastards.
Anybody who's
You're
short,
shooting.
you're the don't
and
pass
that
line
guy's-
guy.
Oh God, betting against a shooter, man. That's such a.
Oh yeah, no, I would never do that.
I'm an up-only
Yes, you
lifestyle
would.
guy.
I will short you behind your back, but if I'm there at the table, I'm never gonna.
That's
fucking-
respectable.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm not a fucking. That's for sure.
I don't know. I just buy and hold. I'm very, very conservative in that sense.
You buying
Yeah.
curve?
Buy curve? Not right now.
Yeah.
I'm just stacking up a lot of ETH right now.
But I mean,
Kila, you buying curve?
I had quite a bit of curve. I made some money off of curve, but then no, I'm not buying right now.
You think it's going to get liquidated? Michael's position?
No, he still has more. He can protect his position.
I was like, everybody's like super worried about this like cascading liquidation that's going to
No.
happen if like all of his leveraged positions sort of fall out.
He can fucking protect his position. He's got hella curve that's still not in
That's
Aave.
insane.
Yeah. He's fucking
If you don't
loaded.
mind
Did
me-
you see his house? Did you see his house that he bought? He can just fucking take a loan against his house and save his
Imagine
position.
starting a project and actually getting like a
Rich.
share of it.
Oh yeah, money.
For real.
I'm just in here for the pain. For people to come in and tell me that I suck at my job every day. The people that are on the internet. So
This is literally the poorest podcast out there right
The
now.
absolute
I mean-
worst.
Look, Weso, one thing.
no,
but-
porous. Like we have the least amount of money.
No. Your
Oh, yeah,
treasury.
I'm sorry. Besides Kila, look, he's like Tony Montana.
Yeah, I've got
Wait.
to act fucking rich, bro.
I wanted to
He's
ask.
got his like
Look
his
at that
shirt
chandelier,
open, like this
alright?
like gold plated like fucking mirror.
Yeah, I've got my
Drink
shirt
all of that-
open.
that
I've got
to
my shirt
cancer?
open because I can't afford AC. I'm like, I'm burning in here, dude.
You should sell that chandelier, man.
I know.
Look at that.
I know.
What is that? Can you get that at Home Depot?
Are you,
Ask your
crystal.
boom
It's made
mic
of crystal.
operator.
you probably could. I do need to get some new light bulbs for it, though. I digress. But
So what do you think of the going back to the curve situation?
Well, I was actually going to say, before you jump in, just for the viewers that might not be too familiar with everything going on in Curve, I was hoping one of you could elaborate on some of the issues right now.
That's your job. You're the facilitator.
And you guys are the fucking geniuses.
well, look, Weso brought it
Pay
up.
attention.
Weso.
Some guy bought a mansion that's worth like $40 billion or something.
Okay, I'll explain
Started
it.
Curve. He's mega friggin' rich.
Michael,
The rest of us are poor. Whatever.
the founder of Curve, has a shit ton of Curve, like over $100 million worth of Curve or something like that, and he put it all up as collateral on multiple different platforms, but a lot of it's on Aave, and then borrowed a ton of like 60, I forget, it was like 60, $70 million against his collateral that he put up. Then news got out that he's buying up an Australian mansion for $40 million or something like that. So Gauntlet, who does the risk assessment for Aave, goes, hey, there's a chance that he's not willing, this is never going to get paid back. He just put all this money into a house. And so then they like raised like this red flag about Curve being collateral now. So now it's like a panic on Twitter about whether or not the collateral ever be paid back, or whether or not it could be like completely liquidated. And I guess for the amount of borrows that are against Curve collateral, there's only like half in on-chain liquidity. So
Yeah,
even if they wanted to liquidate the whole amount of money, they can't really do it on-chain.
Wow.
So that's part of the issues. That's why the Curve story is sort of big right now. But
Yeah. Well, one, I don't think that I think that he has enough to cover his position. Two, I mean, that's one of those things why it's super important to look at liquidity when you're a lending protocol. If you are letting people use a token as collateral and there's not enough liquidity for it in case of liquidations, yeah, you're bound to get fucked. I mean, I think we're in a where Curve is okay is, again, it's Michael. Most people know him. He's a pretty known figure within the crypto space. I don't see him letting that ride out.
No, but it is an interesting point, right? So as a lending protocol, if let's say that at one point when you initially say, hey, here's the limit of the amount of collateral you can deposit and borrow against because of X amount of on-chain liquidity, but then that liquidity changes, how fast do you react to it, and how do you protect yourself as a lending protocol if liquidity sort of like dries up and then you have like this huge risk?
I mean, yeah, you have to continuously monitor. Liquidity, like with Cheetah and everything like that. For example, it's a constant thing. There's actually somebody on the risk committee that is sole focus is just to monitor each collateral and see how liquidity is doing, and if there is any kind of need of reducing debt ceilings or whatnot. But it's a full-time, it's a full-time gig. You got to kind of make sure you're always paying attention to that, because that's how bad debt happens, and bad debt a lot of people.
Yes, I no Aave pays basically gauntlets.
Gauntlet,
that,
correct.
Right? I mean, so there's countless lending protocols that are essentially out there on different blockchains that are probably having like people do it internally. I mean, I guess there'd probably be and that can't afford Gauntlet, because I think Gauntlet's probably like
It's
out
expensive.
of the price range for a lot of So, but I mean, it is such an important thing that is like an up and coming like lending protocol. Like, how do you handle that? Do you handle that internally, or do you like rely on third party?
No, you handle it.
If there's
So you handle it internally first, and then as you grow, you can look outside. But the thing is the reason why I think Aave was in this situation was Aave V2. It didn't have any caps on how much you could supply in terms of curve, if I'm not mistaken. On Aave V3, you do have supply caps, so you shouldn't see these type of things happen on Aave V3. And I would suggest for any lending protocol, if you do not have caps, whether it be debt ceilings, if you are allowing people to mint stablecoins, or if you do not have supply caps for certain collaterals, if you are, for example, an Aave style, if you do Aave style lending or compound style lending, you're inviting a ton of trouble.
Yeah, and I know you're relying on on-chain liquidity in order to liquidate, but it also makes me wonder if they're eventually, because I mean, we're only talking about like fragments of what's possible in actual DeFi, right? If DeFi grows to become and replace even like a fragment of traditional finance. So like, would there ever be a role where there's essentially centralized liquidators that are just moving assets on chains for the sole purpose of just doing liquidations, and sort of, being hired out in order to accommodate, some of the DeFi protocols, and like how then is it become even more centralized when you do something like that?
There are
how
those.
you scale it, right?
I think that's inevitable. Like, because eventually there's going to be people that want to liquidate assets without an intermediary. So either way, I don't see a world where DeFi gets adopted and the centralized players don't use DeFi to their advantage or try to play their games on there as well. So, I mean, that's my thoughts on that. Direct part. Do you guys think that there are other lending protocols that, or other protocols that could be in this situation where there's not enough liquidity to close out these positions?
There's definitely.
Yeah. I haven't looked at all of them, but I can guarantee it that there are plenty. There's going to be plenty. And again, there's tons and tons of different chains, and you have to, just because there's a lot of liquidity for, say, a token on Ethereum, doesn't mean that there's a lot of liquidity for that same token on Metis or Arbitrum or whatever it may be. And so if you don't have liquidity actually on those chains, it's also a little bit of an issue. So you have to look at liquidity not just as a whole, at least right now, the way that things are. You have to kind of look at liquidity from the perspective of that chain that you're on, or that lending protocol is on.
Yeah. It's like isolated to the chain, which would be
interesting
if there's a way to like abstract that away. Like if we're able to make basically cross-chain
liquidations,
exchange of funds quicker and stuff like that, where you can access funds that are on other blockchains and then liquidate on the blockchain you're trying to go to. Make it easier, and obviously then you have like this universal liquidity that you have access to instead of relying on the individual blockchains for liquidity sources. So it'd be super interesting.
We're getting there. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. And then also to your point, Weso, there are a few players that lending protocols hire to do liquidations for the protocol.
Yeah,
So,
I was wondering, like that's got to be a tremendous market as like the growth sort of happens, right? Because right now it's complete, like a lot of it's completely decentralized, and you're relying on maybe like flash loans and stuff to help accommodate that and people who are doing MEV. But like I think as you scale, you're going to need probably people from other sources to make sure and come in and like shore up liquidations to make sure that they're able to liquidate maybe things that are having a tough time being liquidated. During volatile periods or something like that. So,
well, also like speed of liquidations is very important, because if you can catch it, very early, then you can deal with certain amounts of, like, say, slippage, right? If you're making, say, 10% on a liquidation, you need to make sure that there's not 10% slippage when you're trying to sell whatever you're getting. And so doing things early, speed is very important. You have protocols like Liquidity. They kind of handle liquidations with their stability pool. That's an interesting model as well. That's a lot of money in liquidations, bro. A lot.
Goes to the protocol.
But it depends. Depends
right.
on the protocol, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, how do you think this thing with Curve is going to pan out? It just seems like there's so much money to try to close down and there's not enough liquidity.
I mean, we're bear market FUD season, so people are like pretty much filling the news with what Tether FUD, and now this is like Curve FUD. But Curve's one of the top protocols that exists in DeFi. Michael has an endless amount of Curve, so I'm sure he can shore up his position. And this is all just kind of, people are bored, prices are going down. Let's just FUD things right now. But it is interesting to look at and to like identify that these are very real risks,
Right?
that happen within lending and could be very chain specific. So even protocols like Aave aren't at zero risk when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Correct. I again, like V2 is completely different than V3. V3, this stuff shouldn't have happened, but I see this as, if things continue to get worse, Michael putting more Curve in, he's fucking long on Curve at the end of the day. He's not going to let his position get called, so he'll cover it. Curve, it still produces a lot of fees. I think it's fine. I'm not too worried.
I've never heard such a confident moment of speech in my entire life.
I mean, look, like Weso said, the FUD. It's all FUD. People are FUDing like USDT as well. People are pulling out, and I think you were mentioning, Jorge, before we hopped on, about all the FUD on USDT, but
Well,
everyone.
You want to talk about that, Jorge?
Yes. So if you guys noticed earlier today, or depending on where you are, it appears that Tether depegged to around 96 cents, maybe 94 for some people. And I guess...
Was it 94?
Was it 94? I think it was 96 or 94. But I
thought it was like 996. Did it actually depeg that far?
Yeah, it depegged pretty far.
No, it didn't.
It didn't depeg that far, did it?
I thought it was like 996.
Yeah, I thought so as well.
Wait a
You
second.
said 96. I was...
What's wrong with this internet?
That's what people were freaking out about?
That's what I'm talking about. It's FUD season, man.
Dude, people need to like take a nap. Wow. Jesus. I mean,
Yeah, let's see here.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I still think like
the low
there's a
was
lot of questions to be
994.
asked about Tether. All we're getting right now is attestations, but I mean, so far it's been a very reliable way to get on-chain liquidity. So I mean, it's working. I mean, I remember everybody was talking about USDT forever, and now we see USDC losing liquidity on a daily basis, and Jeremy Allaire going into Congress and just like begging, essentially for regulations that basically like how do you say, arbitrage, like a way to push Tether out of the equation. So it's going to be interesting to see how things go, and it just seems that even though Tether is quite questionable, that people are still using Tether. People are now holding Tether in their wallets more than ever, or using it in DeFi more than ever.
I mean, when Tether's been fine, how many times has Tether been FUDed?
All the time.
Like every week?
All the time.
And all it does is remain stable to $1.
Correct.
I think what the biggest problem right now is people are noticing that the 3 pool is being
Drained a bit.
is like I think 50% Tether now.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
They're having a little panic of like, why is everybody selling Tether into the 3 pool, or who's doing that, right? But there could be people opening up short positions. There could be people like rebalancing their stable portfolios. So I don't know if we've actually found out who the actual person is that's rebalancing all that Tether, or selling all that Tether to the 3 pool. But
Why would someone
that's
want to
why
do
the
that,
main
though?
reason people are.
Well, I mean, if there's
get out of
FUD,
it?
yeah, if there's FUD on Tether, you take your Tether for USDC or DAI or something like that, and then when you've got a pool and say it's all even, 33% each one, as people are pulling out their pulling out USDC and injecting in Tether, well, then now you're going to start having more Tether, less USDC, more Tether, less DAI, and then that's how you kind of get the imbalanced.
Do you think this is a failed attack on Tether, or like someone trying to?
Yeah, I mean, so far. So who knows what comes next, right? But I think today, for people to freak out over a couple of basis points, it's like ridiculous.
I think
to your question, is it a failed attack?
Fraction
yes.
of basis point.
Yes, it's a fail. It's failed because when I look at Tether right now, it's at $1. So
you know who's having a good day though? Is that Bitfinex guy?
Oh yeah,
who like literally is like the cry wolf person on Twitter for like 5 years. Like Tether, he's a Tether truther, right? Like it's all gonna come crashing down. You guys just wait. And then every single time is proven wrong, and still has like 100,000 followers. I don't even know, his bot army that he probably employs.
Bitfinex, that's I think you're talking. Is that Arthur Hayes? Is that who you're referring to?
No. There's a guy on Twitter. I think his name is Bitfinex.
Oh.
And the guy has just been a Tether fudder for like as long as I've known.
Trying to find this guy. Oh, with the penguin and the Tether bomb.
I don't know. You're the one that's following him.
No, I'm following him now. I'm just like, I want to. Sometimes you just got to watch the show to get a little bit of entertainment.
It looks like
that's all it is.
It's like a tether bomb. Yeah, and the penguin.
I mean, I honestly think that
exposed Bitfinex Tether as the largest financial fraud in history. Financial fraud that continues to just be pegged at $1.
Yeah,
continuously throughout all of the market crashes and everything.
I think it's interesting that how profitable their business has been, and that now they're diversifying the profits into different assets. And I think the fact that they've bought Bitcoin and added that to their portfolio, it's almost like they're making a hedge against the rest of the crypto market, which they're involved in, essentially. So if things go wrong with stablecoins, you still have Bitcoin on the portfolio. I think that's kind of what Tether is doing. And honestly, the only way I could see...
it worked for Luna, so...
Oh,
no,
but to be fair, that's profits. Jesus. That's not money that they're using in Tether, presumably, based on their announcement. Uh-huh. It's just profit.
Steady lads.
Yeah, look.
Stop it.
Look, stablecoins are a fun game. It's who knows what's backing USDT. It's maintaining its peg very, very strong. It will take a lot to really have it fall, or it's going to take governments to really try and come in and annihilate it, because it's taken hit after hit after hit and still maintained. Stablecoins are a good business.
Do they have it all invested in treasuries?
As I understand it,
I believe.
USDC.
Most.
Could you imagine? Like, what is the market cap of Tether?
60-something billion?
No, I think it's more now.
80-something?
80 billion, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And you're just like taking the revenue from like the treasury.
Well,
treasury income.
It's kind of like a mixed bag of stuff, because the government needs people to buy their debt. It's like, why do they issue more bonds? Because the treasury account is almost zero. It's 40 billion, which is like nothing for the U.S. government.
Yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is, like, for them, all they got to do, here, I give you this internet coin, you give me a real dollar, I go put it in the treasury, I earn all of the interest on it, and then when you come back, I just have to have that real dollar back to give to you when you want to.
It's beautiful.
Redeem it.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
It's beautiful, man. Like these people have created amazing business. I mean, and look, if you look at banks, like real life banks, it's beautiful what these people have created, man. You put money in, okay, it's their money now. They can like lend people money against your money. They don't really have to keep that much in reserves. They're creating money out of thin air. It's beautiful. And because it's so amazing and it generates so much money and you can print money out of thin air. I'm talking about real banks, not crypto, of course not. Crypto is a threat to it, and we have something so beautiful. You don't want to be threatened. So I see why.
Yeah.
I see why the old guard is hating on us so much. I don't blame them.
So Tether had $40 billion in treasury bills.
That's wild.
No wonder they're making a killing.
Yep.
I mean, I think that at the end of the day, the only way Tether is going to go down is if there's some type of new scrutiny for institutions that are holding US dollars. Sorry for the viewers. My screen is messed up right now. Hopefully it gets better. Steady. Anyways, but as I understand it, most of the bonds, and I could be wrong here, but I believe the bonds are held at banks in the Bahamas. And so that's how they're able to access US dollars for Tether and continue to buy bonds with whatever profits they make from the yield. And right now it's a great time to do that when short-term bonds are having, excess yield, in like the 4 or 5% range. So I mean, they have it very easy. I'd be very curious to know what the rest of the money is sitting in when people are withdrawing. Like, do they have stake in some type of corporate debt that's yielding really high right now? I mean, there's a lot of businesses that Wall Street thinks is risky enough that the insurance on the debt is yielding a higher percentage. Like I think Coinbase is at 14% right now, to give you an idea. I would hope that they're not being degens.
Would you trust that Tether is more liquid or your bank?
Oof.
Tether all day.
Tether all day. I agree. Tether. I mean, banks have collapsed faster this year. I mean, even USDC bounced back. I mean, they've been really efficient ways to basically holding stablecoins right now seems like a safer bet than holding money at your bank, at least if it's Tether and it's not in the US.
If it's under 250,000
for Luna.
if it's under 250,000, I think you're fine. You can hold it in a bank. Like, no problem. You probably will not have direct access to it, but at the end of the day, you'll get it. But yeah,
well, they can only cover so many banks imploding. I think with that, right?
I mean, they can print more money, bro.
Oh well, I guess they can print, but like the actual fund that's holding, like the insurance fund, can only cover like a very small percentage of actual like user deposits.
Yeah, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct, but I mean, chances of that much.
So you can get all your $250,000 back into valued currency once they print the shit in order to pay off all the bank or bail out all the banks.
Well, the FDIC is just so under collateralized. I forget how much they're insuring off the top of my head. Let me do a quick Google search.
I mean, this is like one of the real actual benefits and use cases of crypto is the fact that you can actually have access to your money whenever you need it, send it wherever you want to go. And also, TBC, are you having a seizure? Are you trying to say something?
No, you guys are boring the shit out of me. So
okay, what do you want to talk about?